Hey guys, it's Wahima, but just call me Wah. Melanated! Welcome to another episode of Morning Tea, where we sit in our sleepwear and discuss current events. Today's tea, chai tea. I know that I've been real stingy and skimpy on the morning teas for the month of November, and I'm very sorry. This is the second one I've put up this month. There has just been so much happening, so I'm just gonna go on ahead and take a hiatus. There will be no more morning tea for the rest of the year. And I will come back next year. I can't say that I'm going to come back the first week in January. Probably the second or the third week of January, I'll be back with the morning tea. I'm going to continue doing other content, but morning tea requires a lot of research and time, and if it's just something I can take off real quick, I will. Okay, so let's jump right into some pop culture tea. Here's the tea. Meek Mill. Okay guys, what do you guys think of Meek Mill? So here's the situation. When Meek Mill was like 18 or 19 years old, he got brought up on some charges for gun possession and drugs, right? Served 8 months in prison, and when he came out, he was on 10 years of probation. Now, that may seem like an easy get off at the time. You're 18, you get in trouble, but you get out, you only serve 8 months, and then you have 10 years of probation. But think about that. 10 years of probation from like age 19 to 29. You can't do anything. And so he did some things in that 10 years which caused him to get in trouble. In 2014, he broke one of the terms of his probation by performing outside of the state of Pennsylvania. So for me, I think of that and I go, okay, for him, maybe that was a necessary thing to do to make his money, because I don't know what his familial situation is. I don't know how many people he's taking care of. I don't know what his life is like. You know what I'm saying? He's a rapper. He's got people to take care of. So maybe he decided he was going to break probation by leaving the state to perform, and it was a legit reason for him to get in trouble. Fine, right? And so then he served 5 months for doing that, and maybe for him it was worth it. And then he violated his parole again in 2016 and was put on house arrest for 3 months. Sometime during the breaking of his probation, he ran across this Judge Brinkley. This is the judge who just recently sentenced him to 2 to 4 years in prison for breaking his parole again. Is it parole or is it probation? I'm going to say probation. I don't know exactly what it is.
I'm not sure that I even know what the difference between parole and probation is. I think probation is like a set of rules put on you when you get out of jail, and then parole is what you are on. I don't know. And then maybe parole is the time out of jail and probation is the rules put on you. I'm not sure. I'm not going to look at it. You look it up. Great.
So he ran into Judge Brinkley, who sentenced him recently to the 2 to 4 years in prison for this recent breaking of or violating his parole or his probation, right? And so what his lawyers are saying is that that judge has a vendetta against him and wants to prove a point by sentencing Meek Mill so heavy-handedly. And with the issue that we have in this country with systemic racism and black men being handed down heavy judges and sentences with crimes done that if their counterparts, their white counterparts had committed, wouldn't be the same. There are some people who are in his corner and some people who are not in his corner. Personally, I feel that when you don't have control over a situation, you should try to do the best you can within the boundaries of the rules, right? So to me, I don't blame him for playing outside of the state of Pennsylvania to make some money. I don't blame him. I get it. So technically he did mess up his probation. But I mean, if he was going to perform and make money for his family, I think that is a valid reason and a risk that I would take. Apparently, he got into trouble earlier this year for breaking up a fight in an airport, and even the cops that were on site said that he was there helping, he wasn't hindering the process, yet because of his probation, he's not allowed to get involved in anything. His name should not be on any kind of official document saying that he was a part of any kind of fight or anything that breaks the law. And so due to that, the judge sentenced him to the 2 to 4 years. And I don't think that's fair. I think that the 10-year probation seemed like it was an easy get off in the very beginning, but 10 years of your life to never do anything. Now, I get it. There are those of us who could easily do that. But then there are some of us who can't, especially if you do a lot of traveling, especially if you're in an environment where things could pop off at any moment. And when you're a celebrity, things could pop off at any moment. And it's heavy-handed also because the district attorney and the prosecutor who was involved in this did not want Meek Mill to get such a heavy sentence. So I really want to know what you guys think about this, because I think it's just such an interesting way to look at it. I don't necessarily think that the judge is 100% wrong. I think the law is on their side. I'm not sure if it's a man or a woman. Janice Brinkley sounds like a woman, but I don't know. I'm not sure if I think the law is on her side technically, but like emotionally, I'm not sure why she's doing it. Is she doing it because she doesn't want to seem to be like easy on rappers? She doesn't want to seem to be easy on black men? I'm not sure, but I definitely don't think that he deserves to be in jail for 2 to 4 years based on breaking probation for something that he did when he was 18 or 19, especially when the charges aren't even the same at all, right? The charges are not even close to drug possession or gun possession, not at all. So I wish him the best, and I really hope that he does get off, but am I going to be protesting? Am I like, oh, free Meek? No. All right, so let's move on to the next issue. Prince Harry. Prince Harry has always been my favorite prince because he's a redhead and I like redheads. He is marrying a black woman. Prince Harry has announced that him and his girlfriend Meghan Markle, who is an actress on the show Suits, she's an American, biracial, half black, half something else actress, and they've been dating now for about a year, maybe a year and a half, and he finally proposed to her earlier this month, and they're getting married. And so, you know, it's a big deal because she's American, number one, and she's definitely half black or somewhat black. I'm not sure. I don't know how she identifies, and I won't put my identifiers on her. But I wish them all the best, and I think it's going to be fun, and I want to see, you know, what their situation looks like in the future. I want to see that wedding for sure, for sure. All right, so let's move on to some politics tea. Here's the tea. So there's a lot of sexual harassment, sexual misconduct things happening in government. And we all know that the last couple of years, the lid has been blown on all the sexual misconduct that's happened in every facet of our country. And I think because we have a culture that allows boys to be boys, we do have rampant behavior like this, rampant unseemly behavior from men that you would never think it would come from, or even in situations that you wouldn't have necessarily 10 years ago seen as being bad or disgusting. For example, Franken, who is a comedian turned politician, or kind of a guy who rode the line. He's a Minnesotan senator, and recently some allegations from a couple of years ago came through that when he's taken pictures with constituents, he's touched their butt. And there's a picture of him while he's on a USO tour and someone is asleep, like a soldier is asleep. He's like in front of her with his hands, like almost like not touching her, but like posing as though he is going to touch her. The same thing with John Conyers. So Representative John Conyers, a Michigan Democrat, has been accused of sexual harassment against a former Capitol Hill staffer. John Conyers has stepped down and he's going to go through the House Ethics Committee and to see whether or not he can still remain a representative. And I do think we have an issue of it in this country, and in most countries, I'm definitely sure. In the case of Roy Moore, his allegations are for underage girls as young as 14. And you guys know Roy Moore was the guy who was running for Jeff Sessions' seat for whatever state, Alabama, Mississippi, one of those states. Is Franken and John Conyers in that group? I don't think so. Comedians do a lot of brass and inappropriate things, as we know with Louis C.K., which, I mean, the Louis C.K. situation breaks my heart so much because I love Louis. And one of my friends knows one of the girls who he did that to. I didn't realize that due to these circumstances, these women who have been affected by Louis C.K., the comedian, his manager had a big role in making it so that these women did not go far in Hollywood due to Louis's actions. So Louis did this thing to them. They were then threatened that if they told anybody, their career would be ruined. Not by Louis, but by his manager. And so the idea is, like, of course Louis knew it was happening. Like, otherwise, that situation in Colorado would have blown up. We need to see what's happening with Bill Clinton. What did he do? Now we need to open up the Monica Lewinsky case, because in the 90s, it was all like it was her fault. It was her fault, right? Monica Lewinsky was the butt of all the jokes. She got hit harder than Bill Clinton did. Everyone was just like, oh, he cheated on his wife. Everyone was like, Monica's a whore, and that's not fair. Okay, so I just wanted to jump in and talk about Matt Lauer real quick. So the allegations against Matt Lauer came out yesterday, and when the details of what happened came out, I am just so shocked. This This is just egregious. I mean, the abuse of power that these men have shown, have done to these women. I mean, I knew it was tough for women in the workplace, but guys, like, I didn't realize that it was this bad. We really are moving towards a place of change in this country, and it's very good. But at the same time, it's just dredging up all of this disgusting swamp behavior that, I mean, honestly, the person at the highest office in our country is accused of this behavior and nothing is being done about it, and we've allowed it to occur. So 2018, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're gonna drain the swamp, as I've heard people say. So some of the allegations, just in case you haven't heard it, is that there was somebody who worked for NBC, and Matt Lauer called them into his office, and he had one of those door locks where he could lock his door at his desk, which is part of a security protocol that NBC's highest executives have. So he was in his office with this person, this woman, and she says that he just got up, didn't say anything, bent her over a chair, and proceeded to have sex with her, and she passed out during the sex. And when she woke up, she was on the floor, and Matt Lauer's secretary was in there helping her and took her to the nurse. And I believe this happened in 2011. I'm not quite sure on the date, but that is just one of the allegations against him, and that is just horrendous. And the woman says that she didn't tell anybody because she was so ashamed. So she left NBC a year later. She did let her husband know, and she did let a friend know. And so her husband and her friend were called forward to make a statement, and they did. And there has been 2 other complaints against him since that woman initially came out on Monday night. So yeah, this is blowing wide open, and everyone knows Matt Lauer. You know, he's one of the names in media and journalism that is respected, and he is morning television for NBC, and it's a really big blow. So yeah, just wanted to report on that. It's a lot of sexual harassment going on, and it's overwhelming for me. Honestly, if I'm honest about it, it's overwhelming for me. And I really feel bad for the women who had to deal with this for all these years, and who still persevered and made careers and names for themselves. All right, so back to the regularly scheduled program. I don't have any domestic tea because didn't look anything. Didn't find anything. All right, so let's move on to some international tea. Here's the tea. Let's go back and do some follow-up on a couple of international stories that I kind of talked about. So the main one I talked about, right, is Myanmar, is the Rakhine state, the Rohingya people, and how they're being ethnically cleansed and kicked out and shipped off and told to go to Bangladesh. So Rex Tillerson at the beginning of the month went to Bangladesh, and he officially made a speech talking about how the United States believes that the ethnic cleansing in Myanmar is horrendous and it needs to stop immediately. So they had a meeting between the Prime Minister of Myanmar and the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, where they signed some sort of treaty where Myanmar said that they were going to help the Rohingya people. They were going to stop systematically killing them, and they were going to rebuild the houses and the townships that were burned to the ground. They've kind of admitted that they did something wrong, but they don't want to truly acknowledge it. They tried to blame it on another group, when really it is the Myanmar military who went in to towns and systematically raped women and killed them, displaced children, told them to go to Bangladesh. They really were trying to get the Muslims out of Myanmar. And that's what's interesting. In the treaty, they don't even refer to them as the Rohingya people. They refer to them as the Muslim. This is like straight up religious and ethnic cleansing. Criticism is that they tried to put in this like whack, bogus treaty, and nowhere in it is there a definite timeline on what Myanmar is going to do, what kind of reparations Myanmar is going to give to the Rohingya people. And so it feels like it's just lip service. So it's really up to the international community to make it so that these people are given their reparations. Because like, even if they are allowed to come back, are they going to want to come back? They're going to have their townships rebuilt. They're going to have their villages rebuilt because the military burned them to the ground so they couldn't come back. And the international community needs to really come together and make sure that Myanmar government does what they need to do for the Rohingya people. It's egregious what they did to the Rohingya people. It is absolutely egregious. In the 2017, girl, like, I think I read somewhere that in 2016 there was there was the first mass exodus, which is like 80,000 Rohingya people, and then after that is like 600,000 Rohingya people. It's so crazy, and there's such a small population. It's like only 1 million and something of them. And for all of this to happen to them and to be like kicked out of their country and told that they're not Burmese or it's just so, it's just really, really, really so sad and egregious. Okay, so the next thing that we're moving on to is Zimbabwe. So I talked briefly about Grace Mugabe a couple of episodes ago and how she like took an extension cord to a model's face in South Africa. So the military decided recently, I think 2 weeks ago, that they were going to round up all of Zimbabwe's top officials, including Robert Mugabe, who is the 91-year-old president of Zimbabwe, and have them on house arrest because of political unrest. So basically, in the beginning, 40 years ago, when Mugabe took over Zimbabwe, formerly known as Rhodesia, he was a freedom fighter like Nelson Mandela. Nationalist is the wrong word, but a couple of African patriots and people who wanted to kind of push out European rule from Africa. Robert Mugabe took control of Zimbabwe and never let go. So he claims that he's the president, but you can't be president for 40 years, right? So you're definitely the dictator of Zimbabwe. Every time they've tried to have elections, Mugabe has pushed down his opponents. So I guess you call him a president because they have had elections, but he's used force, he's used the military, he's used a lot of unsavory methods to crush his opposition. And now I think that there's so much unrest in Zimbabwe, so much corruption. The Zimbabwean dollar is like nothing because of all the inflation and all of the bad deals, that they're now tired of him. And so there are some people who politically don't even care about Mugabe because that's all they've ever known. But then there are some people who are like, no, we need to change this. We need to figure it out. There needs to be some new blood in our at the head of our political system. And so the military decided to not have a coup because that would cause international, reaction. So what they're calling it is like a safety sequestering of the president and all of his top officials. I'm not sure if they're sequestering them so that they can have a fair political election, or if they could just have talks with Mugabe about Mugabe stepping down and all of his officials stepping down and having new blood in. And so right now, they're still under military arrest, and right now they're arresting top officials to question them and see what's going on. So a lot of these people are being charged with corruption and abuse of power and all these good things, and now they're being held. But now, like, the international world is following it very carefully. So when this ally of Robert Mugabe was being held in interest of his safety. So everything that they've done to Mugabe and his people, they're saying, like, we're doing it for your safety. We're making you stay in your homes for your safety while we do investigating on your corruption crimes. So just go ahead and sit tight. We're going to figure this out. So Zimbabwe now, there's a situation happening. Many people are excited because that means that something new is going to happen in Zimbabwe, and some people are worried because that means that, military taking over your country is always a little bit scary, right? All right, so next year I'll let you guys know what ends up happening with Mugabe and this story, and anything else that's happened, I will kind of keep you guys abreast to. I know this episode is a little controversial, so just let me know what you guys think down below. I wish you guys a safe and happy holidays and a happy new year. I'll see you next year. Thank you so much. If you like what I do here on this channel and you'd like to consider becoming a Patreon patron, please click the link down below. Links will be down below with everything I have talked about in this video, and thank you so much. Remember to be you, be true, and find your place. Bye.